What's going on? This is Dr. Rhadi Ferguson, 2004 Olympian, four-time national judo champion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt author, speaker, and coach. And I just recently read a post or a question that was posed on the Judo Connections forum by Bruce Bethers. And his question was, it's stunning how well our USA wrestlers are doing in the Olympics compared to how poorly our USA judo athletes did. What are your thoughts? Well, first and foremost, I don't want to agree that our athletes did poorly just because they didn't medal. There are many people who go to the Olympics. Everybody doesn't medal. Judo is not necessarily a powerhouse inside the United States like wrestling is. That's like another country asking why they only win at basketball and the USA is winning all the time. So I don't think they did poorly. They just didn't medal. So let's talk about the first thing. The cost of entry into the sport is very high when you compare it to wrestling. The first wrestling tournament you go to is usually about $20, and all you need are some shoes. You put shoes on, the same shoes that you practice in, and then you pay $5, $10, $15, get a USA Wrestling card, and then you just wrestle. And they have tournaments week in and week out. The cost of entry to get into judo requires a gi, and then after the gi, then the entry fee, which is very similar to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is anywhere from $60 to $120 to go to a tournament. And then there's not a lot of tournaments in judo available. So the cost of entry, the cost to get in, is just too high. And it's really unfortunate because it stops a lot of people from being able to come into the sport. You move yourself up to the national level, and you're talking about blue gi and a white gi, blue belt and a white belt. You have to travel, hotel fees. It's just too much for some people to do, and the cost to enter just to get good is just too high. The other thing is competitions cost more in judo than they do in wrestling. At the high end, that they're about the same, but in the lower end, when you're trying to develop, the judo competitions are just more. And once again, it's unfortunate, and we don't have 3, 4, and 5 styles that people can do in an all-inclusive tournament like we should. Then you go to a wrestling tournament, some of those tournaments have freestyle, folk style, and Greco at the same tournament. You go to a judo tournament, you got judo, and then that's it. Some places have judo and then Kosen judo, but it would be great if you went to a judo tournament and you had the options to do judo, jiu-jitsu, and Kosen judo. I mean, it'd be phenomenal. Or karate, but we don't have those particular options. There's no judo in high school. When you compare it to wrestling, we don't have we don't have judo in high school. And that makes a huge difference because it's not provided as a extracurricular activity within the school. A kid can't just stay at school and then go do judo. To do judo, they have to get picked up, taken to judo, and if you don't have an after-school program, which most judo places don't, then that requires the parents to pick the kids up and get them to judo at a reasonable time, and then out of judo so they can do their homework. So if you have to work and you run a school, you can't do 5 or 5:30 because you get out of work at the same time. You run your class from 6 to 7 or 7 to 8. Some parents balk at the time because they're like, hey man, kids got to go home and do homework. So you're in a catch-22 situation, but there's no judo in high school, and there is wrestling at the high school level. They have high school state champions. There are very few college programs, and those that are available, very few offer scholarships. If we can get in the NAIA or the NCAA, that would make a huge difference in terms of the development for judo. USA Judo, I just don't understand that it has a branding and marketing issue, and is using antiquated techniques in a quickly evolving marketplace. The USA Judo has some responsibility in terms of branding and marketing to help their constituents, which are their members, in terms of education, in terms of marketing, in terms of helping them get their numbers up, because USA Judo can only exist without the numbers. So the smart thing to do is help yourself get the numbers that you need so that you can continue to exist. This is few and far between. I've had some conversations. I know other people have had conversations. there's a roadblock at certain points of the conversation process. So people just go ahead and do what they want to do on their own. I mean, I'm watching Jimmy Pedro and Travis Stevens develop the American Judo system, which is developing like gangbusters. They're doing really good. They're filming, they're recording, they're looking to dominate the internet with the amount of videos that they're putting out. It's good. They do something similar to what I do, but I don't even look at them as being competition, because the marketplace is so big, there's no reason to compete with anybody. You got judo fanatics that are out there they're putting out DVDs and online instructional series. And then you have, people like myself that run a judo program and do high-end and mid-level coaching for people on a one-on-one basis. And I also have my courses on Udemy where I teach almost 13,000 people martial arts. So there's a lot of things that USA Judo can do. I don't know how handcuffed they are within the USOC system, but there are more things that they can do. And it's just not getting it done. Referees. So we live in the United States, and we have this thing called rugged individualism, and it works to our advantage and it works to our disadvantage. But as an individual, you feel that you have the right to question another individual based upon their behavior or their speech, because everybody has a responsibility in the United States to be accountable. We have a sport where the referees are above reproach. You can't talk to the refs, you can't hassle the refs, you can't boo the refs, and this doesn't happen in any other sport, really, except for judo. This doesn't bode well with parents who don't understand the sport. It doesn't bode well with athletes either. It's not a good look for the longevity of the sport. Now, it may work in other countries, it's not a good fit in the United States. The sport is just not parent and fan friendly. It's just not. Man, the fans don't know what the hell is going on. I can't tell you how many people call me like, what's the scoring here? Then when you look at wrestling, the score is very simple. I push you out of bounds, I get 1 point. I take you down, I get 2 points. I take you down and expose your back, I get 3 points. I take you down, high arcing throw, and you hit your back, 5 points. Very, very easy. If you're passive, we start a clock. If you don't score, I get 1 point. Wrestling is super, super easy. Judo is way too subjective. It's so subjective that I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna tell you, man, there was a ridiculous amount of cheating going on in the 2020 Olympics. You can say people turned a blind eye to it. You can dance around it and be like, hey man, the people didn't mean to do that. That is bull sugar. Okay, there was blatant bias and blatant cheating. And that's what it is. And if you don't want to admit it, then it's okay. But it was clear that people were cheating. The cool thing about wrestling is it removes a little bit of that gray area, so that you end up having like Olympic champs and world champs out in the first round, the second round. They get teched like Kyle Dake did, and things happen. It just needs to be a little more honest. And when I say it's not parent friendly, parents aren't bringing their kids to a tournament to get hit with some controversial call that they don't understand, and then not have a referee talk to them about the call, and then have their kid lose. Man, they're not coming back for that. They're out. And we just got to find a better way to do things. That's about it. I can go on with some other things, but I can tell you this. The last thing is this. We got too many egos and not enough people at the table when it comes to decision making. If you could find a way to get, sorry about the background noise, I'm talking during the day at my house, and I think that's somebody with a lawnmower on. I don't know what that is, but it is irritating as I don't know what. In a perfect world, Travis would have come back after the Olympics and been in the same training space as Nick Del Popolo. It's not a perfect world, so sometimes there's certain mixes that you try to make happen that are like oil and vinegar. I think that if you can set up a round table and have Serge Boyosu, Rhadi Ferguson, Jason Morris, Jimmy Pedro, Herman Velasco, and maybe Mike Swain, and I'm talking about the modern day coaches right now. I have a couple of other coaches at the table, Eddie Liddy. Have these coaches at the table and remove the egos. Man, we could write out a long-term development plan. You can't just say this is what worked for me, this is what, because there's a certain plan that works great for 73s and 81s, and there's a different plan that works great for 60s and 66s, and there's a different plan that works for 90s and 100s, and there's a different plan that works for 100 plus. The game changes. The Newaza movements at 100 plus are very different than the 60 and 66. And then the women's game is different. But the people in the room know these things, and if we have enough science at the table and enough smart folks at the table and a repression and suppression of the egos, then we could write out a great plan. But just thinking that one person has all the answers, it's not so. It's not so. You don't just need a head coach. I mean, like it's like in football and any other sport. You need a head coach, you need assistant coaches, you need a kicking coach, you need a long snapper coach, you need a linebacker coach, a lineman coach, O-line coach, D-line coach, running backs coach, tight end coach, wide receivers coach, and the coach for the secondary, then an offensive coordinator, like the defensive coordinator. Like you need a lot of different coaches that do a lot of different things. And if we're not bringing in these particular resources, man, we're going to continue to lose. I mean, if nothing else, Clarice from France, she's a double Olympic gold medalist for this Olympics, and she's also a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Kosei Inoue took the Japanese team to certain dojos and had the Brazilian jiu-jitsu players work out with them in their preparation during the 4 years. Like that, if we're in the United States and we see the boom and development of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, if you're a judo player and you don't do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and you're not really serious about your total Newaza development at this particular time, at this particular point. And the people who say Brazilian jiu-jitsu doesn't work, okay, that's an opinion to have. I hear it. Some of the people who are saying Brazilian jiu-jitsu doesn't work are black belts in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. All right. So if you want to say it doesn't work, and you want to tell somebody it doesn't work, and if somebody tells you that it doesn't work, say great. I believe it doesn't work. Let me get my black belt too, so I can see that it doesn't work, because clearly it does work. And if you looked at the last Olympics, you spend all your time throwing as much as you want to. It really doesn't matter, hill of beans, especially if there's no huge technical delta. Throwing is great. I believe in throwing. I like seeing clean throws. You have to develop throws. But the name of the game of winning at the international level is gripping and Newaza. You got to be able to grip and you got to be able to grind. And I just listened to Tim Grover's book on winning, which was absolutely fantastic. And he talked about Kobe Bryant and his, God rest his soul, and his basketball school, how they train in what they call the Mamba mentality. And he said, Tim Grover said, some people spend 45 minutes 3 times a week. He said Kobe Bryant was doing 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. He said, and 2 hours of it was spent on defense, not shooting, defense. The one thing, man, about judo is that, yeah, you have to throw, but you can't be thrown either. And if you can grip fight good, the amount of times you're going to get thrown is going to be a lot fewer than if you can't. That's all I can tell you. Thank you for listening, and please visit www.gripfighting.com to improve your grip fighting, and to improve your Newaza, go to www.newazaexcellence.com today. There's a lot of free stuff there. on both sites, and I hope you enjoy it. Take care.